you can play defense anytime. That's why we try to stress defense so much, because defense is going to be, that's a constant. There's no reason to not play defense, especially as athletic as we normally are. Offensively, some nights we're going to struggle, some nights we're going to torch it. That's just the way it is. But as the year goes on, we typically get a little bit better offensively.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach at East Chambers High School, Todd Sutherland. Coach Sutherland was named an outstanding high school basketball coach by the National Association of Basketball Coaches for 2022-2023. A 37-year coaching veteran, he passed the 900 career win mark during this past season. Coach Sutherland has coached at several schools, including Hardin-Jefferson, Kuntz, and East Chambers High School, bringing these teams to the state tournament 8 times, winning 3 state championships. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, making the time. I mean, you have a track meet today, and thankfully you had the ability to sneak away and have a hoops talk with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm thankful for Coach Greg Neese from Anahuac for allowing me to use his office during this time. And I'm the distance guy, and they just ran. So
okay.
There's track meet going on there, but I don't have another distance runner for quite a while.
Well, man, Coach, you and I don't think we've ever had any interaction or anything together. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah,
that
but
correct. I've never met you in person.
Well, it's great to meet you, and this is an absolute honor for me because it was kind of a random thing. You know, I follow TABC and some different coaching organizations, and I saw just a kind of a little clip about you getting your 900th win this year. And part of a big motivation for me doing this is to get to talk to high school coaches, you know, in Texas or out of Texas that have just done amazing things in their career. And Coach, first of all, congratulations on that milestone. That's incredible.
Well, I really appreciate it. I've been very, very blessed and fortunate. I mean, I've had tremendous players. You don't do anything without players. And we were actually discussing it at a track meet. You know, somebody asked, our kids were saying, okay, what's your top 5 players from East Chambers? I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to leave a good one out. and we had that discussion with one of my assistant coaches about several months ago about top 5 players overall. And I'm leaving out guys that have made multiple All-State, you know, because I've had probably 20 to 25 All-State players, and most of those guys were, you know, multiple times. And so I've been blessed with great players. Assistant coaches have been just phenomenal. And, you know, I can't do it without them. Of course, you don't do anything without your family supporting it. My wife, Jenny, and I have been married it'll be 41 years in May. And
awesome.
She's been right there the entire time. And, you know, your community, it just takes a whole village. And I've been very fortunate to the places I've been. It's been very important to win. And they've helped out with resources to do that.
That's huge because it is a whole community that makes it happen. I mean, you're very humble in saying that it's about players. And I would agree that without talented players that work hard and buy in and are coachable, it's just you and me standing on a sideline. And that's not fun. I mean, I don't know about you. I haven't scored a point in 10 years here at Faith. So,
no, I haven't either. And, you know, the credit goes to the players, because when you get players that will work hard in practice and realize that a bar is set very high, and they have to meet that bar in practice, then you've got something special.
Well, Coach, a 37-year career, is that correct? 37 years?
30 of it as a head coach.
Okay, 30 as a head coach, 37 overall. I mean, I don't care what business or you know field you're talking about, to sustain and be in it for that long is impressive. What are some of the daily habits that set you up for success in your time as a head coach?
Well, for me, I mean, personally, for me, I'm a person of habit. I try to have time with God in the morning. We try to have a little devotion and prayer time. I like to work out in the morning. I used to run back in the day. I was a 4 mile guy every morning, and then I had to have a hip replacement. So now I get on a stationary bike. That just shows my age, of course. But even, in our practices, we do everything pretty much the same. We have certain days where we do it different, but we use the same drills. I mean, if you looked at our drills from 30 years ago, it's the same thing. And so we just stayed true to what's worked for us. And, we tweak it here and there. And, obviously my assistants are younger and when they want to try something, we throw it out there and let them teach it and we go with it. And they're usually, I think that's what's led to our success.
That's interesting though, what you said, like that you personally with the drills and concepts that you've been using. I mean, obviously it's worked in your career, but I think the hesitation or not hesitation, when you're watching maybe the game change and the trends might be to try something new and do things different. How have you been able to kind of stay the course in your beliefs? Again, success is kind of shown that you're doing the right thing, but you've been able to stay in a certain mode or way of teaching and not deviate that for all these years.
Well, the one thing that we do the exact same is we're full court pressure from start to finish. That's just the way we are. So we start everything with defense. Now, where we have changed is offensively. Back in the day, I was one set way. We just do it this way, and I've kind of evolved a little bit over time. A lot of that's to do with assistant coaches. Some of them have convinced me, but we put a lot more movement in our offense compared to when I was younger. We ran a lot of Buna. Had to have a post man, and to be honest, I haven't had a dominant post man in a long time. So you better figure out something that works. And so we put more movement in our offense. But as far as our drills, we do a lot of the same drills. Everything's full court for us, just because we press all the time, and we scrimmage a lot in practice. With what we do, because we play fast, you can have teams that can do drills really well, but then they can't play a lick once you get the game because you got somebody guarding you. So my belief is we got to scrimmage. So we scrimmage a lot, and we've not deviated from that in my 30 years.
It's funny you say that, because one of the questions I love to ask is, what would you do differently? And a lot of coaches will say, I would love to go back and spend more time scrimmaging in practice. Because I think we're so we drill things to death, and we believe in what we're doing. We think it's really going to help our players, but I think guys like you have figured it out a long time ago that what we need is in a controlled environment where we can teach them, because in a game we can't stop the game and go out and actually move them to the right spot or help them with what their intentions were and get them doing the right things. In practice, we can do that. And I don't know how many, I think that's a good reminder for us.
I wish I could take credit for that, but, I was Charles Bradup's assistant back in the day, and I actually learned that from Charles. Charles was big on scrimmaging. And so even after I started, basically we would do our drill work, and then that'd take about 30, maybe 40 minutes. But then we would literally scrimmage 4 quarters after that, sometimes more than that. When I was at Koontz, we might go 5, maybe 6. And obviously we're in tremendous shape. And, you didn't have to sub people out because you were just in tip-top shape. But that's where I got it from. You learn to play playing, and, try to teach them the stuff in the drills, but they got to learn playing. And when we're scrimmaging, we don't stop a whole lot. We're kind of coaching on the run unless, we keep having mistakes, and then we might stop them to get it corrected. But we're trying to coach them on the run.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballology skills assessment. Please visit ballology.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. That's what I was going to ask you is how often are you stopping in your scrimmages and in your play? So if it's because obviously you want to teach throughout it. So take us through kind of what that looks like.
Well, if you've got a player that's rotating wrong, and to be honest, sometimes they're going to read stuff that, some of them just have it, and they can read, even though maybe they're supposed to rotate right, they rotate left and pick it off, or they read something different than I would read, and you have to let it go. At least I do. But if it's just continually wrong, or you've got a kid that's just not in the right spot, especially like on a press break, or they're not kicking it ahead like we think they should, we're going to stop it then and talk them through it, or try to talk them through it. But we rarely just stop practice. Now, we treat it like 4 quarters. So, at the end of the quarter, go grab some water real quick. Sometimes we throw the JV on to run a quarter, a short quarter at that, 4 minutes, and that's where the rest is. Sometimes they don't have but one sub per team. Sometimes we go best on best. Sometimes we go against the JV. We just try to give them a different look every time, but we don't stop it a whole lot.
Man, Coach, that's really good. I think how simple can practice become when here are a few things we want to work on for our scrimmage today, and then based on how the scrimmage goes, I would imagine that gives you a really good look at, okay, here's what we need to work on for tomorrow. Instead of, how often are we just guessing? We worked on this today, but we didn't really get to see them do it a lot. So, maybe we do it again tomorrow. I think there's a lot of clarity in your coaching because of the way you run your scrimmaging.
Yes, and that's also how you figure out who can play and who can't.
Yeah.
Because some guys are very good drill players, and they're gonna, you put them on the gun and they're gonna make a bunch of shots, but all of a sudden they're sprinting down the floor and somebody's running at them. They can't make a shot to save their life. And I don't do it as much. It was a lot of work, I have to admit. But when I was at Koontz, we statted every practice. It was cumulative. And for example, a turnover was a -1, a steal was a +1, a made shot's a +1, a missed shot's a -1. So it was a simple plus-minus system, and then we statted it up at the end, but we kept it cumulative, and that's how we literally got our starters. The top 5 guys started, so you could pass somebody up. So it was determined from practice, not from the games. And so I don't do it as much. To be honest, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
When you break it down a 4-quarter scrimmage at practice, you're looking at an hour and a half minimum. And plus, at Koontz, my players, we were literally 8 to 10 deep. Whereas at East Chambers, we've had a lot of really good players, but we have not been as deep. We've been more like 7 deep. And so it's a little bit easier to figure out. But we went to state in 2016, and I felt like we had a player or two that was dogging it a little bit in practice. And it was what I started doing was cutting their time in the game a little bit. I had a rotation, but they figured it out. I didn't say a word to them. I started cutting their time. I wasn't putting them back where I used to put them back. And then I started statting practice, and I would post it. And it would have JV on there too. And one of those players was like at number 14. And I highlighted it. And he finally got the picture and started, he just wasn't flying around. I didn't think he was flying around like he should have been. And so you can kind of get their attention with that type of stuff.
So when you say statting it, are you just doing kind of a plus-minus system like we would normally do for?
Okay. Absolutely. And the only thing that you could get a +2 or a +3, for example, a made 3 was a +2, but a missed 3 was a -1. So you were encouraged. Of course, if you can't make a 3, you better not shoot it because it's a minus. But if you took a charge, that's a +3. And we also threw some things in there later. We made a stat part. If you dove on the floor after a loose ball, That was a +3. The problem with that, you'll have them diving on the floor when they have no chance for the ball and think they're going to get a plus. We
plus
kind of had
it, plus it.
we had to monitor that a little bit better, but we still somewhat use that. I just don't do it in practice. And with Huddle now, Huddle breaks it down for you. So, oh my gosh, they made it so easy on us. You send it into Huddle and they have it broken down for you about 8 hours later. And so you can see who's producing and not. You're trying to put the producers on the floor.
I would imagine that makes two things. It makes practice very competitive, because I think if you don't have a system like that, or if players will tend to think that I'm locked into this spot. There's nothing I can do to make it better, my situation better, to get more time, but there's also nothing I can do to get worse or get less time. So I would imagine it makes it really competitive. And then two, the biggest struggle that we almost all have is with playing time and either parents or players, sometimes both, not understanding why and not being on the same page with us. This gives you, instead of just sitting across from a parent and saying, subjectively, I just don't think he's where the other guys are. It might be true, but that's hard for them to grasp. This gives you data. Like, listen, when we scrimmage, here's where your son lines up, on top of maybe some intangibles that I see that he could be better at too.
Yes, and to be honest, I haven't sat across from a parent in probably 20-something years, seriously. I know that's a problem.
Coach, that's rare.
Yeah, I've been around a long time, and
been
in Southeast Texas, so I'm not bragging. I do have a decent reputation. So, and right now at East Chambers, seriously, I'm coaching sons of guys I coached the first time I was at East Chambers.
They're not going to come talk to you. They know.
No. And our basic rule is this anyway. We tell them up front, don't bring a parent. If it's about playing time, I don't want to talk to your parent. You come talk. You're not on my door. I'll be glad to talk to you, and I'm going to be very blunt when I do. We're not going to lie to you, and this is the reason. But like when I was at Koontz, and when I was at HJ for that matter, we would say the top 8 are going to play. You're guaranteed if you're in the top 8, and we would keep that posted so they knew right where they stood. And so I had at Koontz, I did have a player or two come in one time, and Coach, what can I do for more time? I said, where are you on the list? Well, I'm number 11. Well, you're not going to get to play anymore. I'm like, who are you going to beat out? I would like name them. Who are you going to beat out? And they understand. And a lot of times it wasn't from lack of effort. It's just that player was better. And our job.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think right now, players and parents, they sometimes confuse playing time with how much we care about their kid.
Absolutely.
And it's not the same.
It's funny because I've had 2 stories, one of them from HJ, one from Koontz, where I had a kid come in that wanted more playing time. I told him it's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I said, don't quit. This team's going to the state tournament. Nobody's going to know in 20 years whether you played or not. You got a medal just like everybody else. And you're an important part of this team for practice purposes. Those type kids give you a picture in practice. And not only that, when their attitude's right, they give you something on the sideline. They can talk to players, even though they're not getting to play. They can talk to players that are coming off the floor, because you can see stuff on the sideline.
Playing so few guys over the years, which that's impressive with the fast tempo style like you have. Your guys must be more of like a Loyola Marymount, where the workouts are tough. Those dudes are in shape to play that style for even 32 minutes at only 7 or 8 guys. Have you had a lot of issues with players quitting or being disruptive negatively on the bench when they realize, man, I'm 9, 10, 11, 12 or beyond?
No, I have not had any problems. And, I've gotten, I've mellowed in my age. And I'm told that by my ex-players too. When I was younger, I would whack you for whatever. I mean, I remember I whacked a guy my very first job, game 4, he was a starter and he wasn't playing hard. And I realized he was only going to play hard when it was easy. If we're going to beat somebody, oh, he's going to play hard. He's flying around, but we got to work. He wasn't, and I cleaned his locker out. And I pulled the scab off early, and I did that in my younger years. I don't do that as much now. I'm gonna talk him off the cliff, so to speak. But we don't have much of that. Seriously, they already know ahead of time. They've been through the system. They've watched us. At a small school, I'm watching them in the 7th and 8th grade. I already know who can and who can't, and they watch us. They know what is expected, and it's the same. They're running the same stuff that we are. And so it's not been a problem. And we do like for example this year, my point guard never came off, never. I mean, he could go 32 minutes pressing and
Wow.
running. We had 1 or 2 players that we never subbed them out. They would stay. And even when I was at Kuntz, we won state in 04. And my best 2 players were Keith and Hancock and Ashton Hall. And basically, I had a rotation with 8 players, but Keithan and Ashton never came off until the game was underhand. And that's just the way it was. And they were in that type of shape where you did not have to sub them out. And, but, in the perfect world, you would have everybody where you can give them a couple minutes here and there.
Sure.
It's not always the perfect world, especially at a small school.
And our job isn't to make everybody happy. Our job is to help the team put them in a position where they can win on a Tuesday or Friday night. And then obviously there's way more to what we do than just winning. Because if it's just about that, then you don't care about the kid, you don't care about the relationships, and you probably, in my opinion, you don't have a 37-year career with 900 plus wins.
Yes, I've been very fortunate, and we do have a very good relationship with our kids. And, to be honest, a lot of that is not just from me, but our assistant coaches are very good at it. But my wife is also. One of the things we do, especially since I've been at East Chambers, my wife cooks for all the home games. And we have food back there. It's not just for the kids, but it's for administrators and parents, heck, whoever wants food. And first off, she's an unbelievable cook. I mean, ask around town. And so we kind of get our culture by doing that and feeding the kids and taking care of them. They know we're going to take care of them, but we expect something in return. And that means you play your tail off and you act right, and you act right in the classroom, and you act right out in public. And so it's a give take with us.
You talked about the shape that your guys are in. Obviously the scrimmaging, playing 4 quarters at the style of play that you run, I would imagine that gets them in shape. But are you having them also just run to get in that type of shape?
We don't ever line up at the end and run, if that's what you're asking.
Or even throughout, but yeah.
If you see us get on the line and run, somebody screwed up. And not just screwed up, it's screwed up several times. We never run, horses or whatever you want to call them. Ours, even our shooting drill, even our layup drill is full court layups. They have to make 70 layups with 4 balls going at the same time, full court, in 2 minutes. And if they don't make it, then there's push-ups and they go again. And they know that we're going to go until we make it. If it takes us 7 or 8 times, then that's just the way it is. And of course, I usually blow a gasket once that happens, because it throws practice off, because that's one of those things you should get through in 4 minutes, because we go, left-handed, and then we go right-handed. So that's 2 minutes each. And, when they don't make it, it throws it off. And, you're in a bad mood there briefly. I used to get over it pretty quick, but everything is, like I said, full court, and there's a standard they have to meet.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot360, the future of basketball is here. Sounds like you were you're running a gun and playing fast. I mean, before it became popular. And so what made you start that defensive style where you're getting up in full court pressuring?
Well, I learned that straight from Charles Braddock. When I was his assistant, we won state in 91. One of the best teams the best team I've ever been around. There's no way that I'll ever see a team like that. Not only were they tremendous basketball players, something that's unreal about that team is the 5 starters all have their doctorate.
Oh, wow.
You'll never see that ever again anywhere. Yeah. And then since then, another one has got his doctorate. And of course, Charles, who's head of UIL, got his doctorate. So you're looking at 7 members of that team that got a doctorate. So they were super smart. Charles wanted to play fast. The one thing about that team that most people probably don't believe, but we really weren't that athletic. We had some size. We were tall, but they were just great anticipators. They could pick a pass off in a heartbeat. But if we lined up on a track, like I'm at a track meet today, no, we wouldn't be winning many races. But they could go long periods of time. They were team oriented, and we played fast and we shot it quick. Especially the next year, the year after we won state, we did not win it in '92, but the '92 team averaged 109.4. We shot it quick. We shot threes quick. Now, I've evolved from that a little bit, and here's the main reason. All of mine are football players at East Chambers. All of them. I get them late. In fact, there's 2019, we went to the state tournament, but I didn't get them until the second week of December. Wow. Because our football team lost in the 4th round. And to be honest, we probably should have won a state championship in football. We lost in overtime in football, or I would have lost them until Christmas. But we had one practice and we played. And so that's the negative of a small school. I love it, but for some guys, it would be a negative. You don't have time to get them ready. I get them. I normally have 1 or 2 practices, and then we play. We start playing then, and that's why we try to get in tournaments where we play 5 or 6 games. Yeah, because I know we're going to get them in shape by playing games.
I love to ask that question about how a coach deals with multi-sport athletes, because I'm at a small school as well. But you're right. Most coaches, and I sad to say, I might have been on that side before, that will say that it's a negative thing to not have your guys year round. And obviously, could you be more skilled? Could the team be farther along? Possibly better basketball players? Yes. But in your opinion, because you just mentioned how you love it, you like having guys involved, what's your way or the best way of dealing with multi-sport athletes?
Well, to be honest, when I first got hired, and one thing that we haven't brought out is my brother is actually my boss. Russ Sutherland is the head football coach, athletic director. He convinced me to come back to East Chambers. I had no plan on coming back. I loved it at Hardin Jefferson, but he convinced me to come back, and he said straight up, "You got a better basketball job," and I did. But he convinced me to come back. We would coach together. I get to coach his kids, and there were a lot of positives to it, and it's been an extremely positive thing. But the one thing that I did not initially realize is that I was going to get them so late. I remember I canceled the first week. I forgot they were going to go 2-3 rounds football playoffs. And then, so these are kids that I had not even had, so they don't know what I'm going to do. And we were god awful. I mean, the first game, I remember we scored 26 points, and I was on suicide watch, literally. He's walking around, following me around. I'm like, what have I done? Oh my God.
This is your fault.
We're scoring 6 in the first quarter at HJ. And he said, no, it's going to get better. I swear it's going to get better. And then we lost the next game. And then all of a sudden, it started clicking. And of course, it clicked with me too, because I figured out who couldn't. who could and who couldn't, and I started narrowing down our playing time. At the time, I was just playing everybody, trying to figure out who could play. And but I actually love that. When we get them, we get tough players. They're football players. They're tough. And if a game's physical and a football game breaks out in the middle of a basketball game, we got a good chance to win because we're good at football. And I also like the fact that, like right now out there at this track meet, a bunch of them are out there. They just go straight into track. If they don't do that, they're playing baseball. Some of them are doing both. And so most of our athletes are doing literally 3 and 4 sports. We got one kid that does 5. He's on swim team too.
Oh, wow.
And so, that to me, that's the beauty of the small school, and they can do everything. What they would never be able to do that at a 5A or 6A. You're going to be forced to, pick your sport and stay with it. Whereas don't have to do it here. And we happen to be pretty good at all of them.
And the style of play that you choose, full court defensively, aggressive, fast paced. I mean, to me, it's smart that you choose that because the guys that you're getting are those things.
Yes.
Aggressive, fast, tough.
Now, one of the negatives is because they're not in the gym all the time, we don't necessarily shoot it from outside as well as, maybe we did at Hardin Jefferson or Koontz, but those kids, that's all they did. At HJ or Koontz, they play basketball. And I had 2 or 3 that played football, whereas here I have 2 or 3 that don't play football. And so we don't shoot it as well. That's just, I understand that. But as the year goes on, we do.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you able to, do you just kind of give up? Like, that's just not something we're going to do well? Or, hey, this is where we're starting. And then you work with them and get them to a certain place to where by January, February, all right, guys, it's looking pretty good.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And, but you can play defense anytime. That's why we try to stress defense so much, because defense is going to be, that's a constant. There's no reason to not play defense, especially as athletic as we normally are. And from offensively, some nights we're going to struggle, some nights we're going to torch it, and that's just the way it is. But as the year goes on, we typically get a little bit better offensively. And the teams that the last couple of years, especially with this huddle, I didn't break it down as much before, but one of the things I look off of huddle is points per possession. And our last couple of teams have been very good points per possession. I mean, we can run an offense. We might miss a shot, but we can run an offense. And our points per possession is over 1. And a lot of games it's way higher than that. And so, they understand what we want. Again, we don't just have at HJ. I had guys. I mean, my son was one of them. They could torch it from the 3. You better guard us at the 3-point line. And here we're sporadic. Some nights we'll hit 12, and then we might hit 3 the next night.
Yeah,
the way it is.
So I've noticed that because I've had teams like that as well, that sometimes confidence can rise and fall with some of those teams that are a little bit more inconsistent. And maybe too, I've seen that when I do have guys that play football, they come back and they feel rusty. The ball doesn't feel good in their hands. They're maybe a little bit out of basketball shape, and it's easy for their confidence to dip. So how do you build confidence in your players?
Well, we try to be positive with them, and in practice, in particular, we want them to shoot. We don't want somebody to be scared to shoot the ball. And so we're not going to be very negative about missed shots. Now, we are negative about shot selection.
There you go.
Bad shot. There's a difference between
a
good and a bad shot. Somebody that's just taking a really bad shot and, it didn't go in. Well, there's a reason it didn't go in. And so we try to be very positive on those type things. And we're very positive on them in practice too. Especially the fact that our kids play so hard in practice. We try to be positive. Now, are there days where it's not positive? Absolutely. There's days where, it's just like us. Sometimes we don't feel like going to work. but you get up and go to work. As I told them, you put the hard hat on and go to work because that's what you do. And so that's what we try to impress with them.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
I love that distinction between missing shots and taking bad shots, because ultimately, okay, the goal of every offensive possession, yes, is to score, but that's just not going to happen every possession. But what we can control is the quality of shots. So what's the goal of every possession? The best shot. And I'm assuming most programs have that kind of figured out within their own language of what that best shot is. But I think so many times I see coaches resulting a little bit more on just the outcome of the shot, not celebrating the fact that, man, we were able to move it and find the best shot for us. It didn't go in, but celebrating that, I would imagine that leads to more makes than, obviously, we need to get upset with poor shot selection because that's what loses games. But absolutely, celebrating the attempts, that's the key.
I don't even know how many times I've said, hey, man, that was a good shot, but we could have gotten a little bit better shot. And even when the few times that we do work on half court offense and, then they jack 4 or 5 threes in a row. And I don't know how many times I've said, we can get a three anytime we want. That's not the goal of this. We need that thing to touch inside, either by pass or by attack. And if it gets kicked out and we get a three out of it, fine. But that's a little bit different from just swinging around the perimeter and then, it never even attempts to touch inside or touch the short corner. So we're constantly trying to impress them on the fact that, we can get that shot anytime. Let's see if we can get something a little bit better.
I would imagine that the 4 programs that you've been a part of, that the standards and pillars of those programs have been similar. So like if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what your program's standards, pillars, what it's all about.
Well, first off, we want them to be good kids. We, obviously it's a basketball game, but the bottom line is it's a game. And so we want them to come out and be good husbands, be good employees, be good people, be good students. So that's the first thing that we're trying to do. And then basketball wise, for us, we want them to be able to defend like crazy, and we want them to be loyal to each other. We want them to be a good teammate. Those guys that can't be good teammates, we have to get rid of them. And fortunately, we don't have to do that very often. But I've learned over time that if somebody is messing up the chemistry, they got to go. That's just the way it is to me in life. If you've got a company and you got an employee that just is messing it up for everybody, you got to get rid of them. And, you don't like to do that, but that's just the way it is. But that's kind of what we try to do. We try to treat everybody fairly. We try to treat all of our players fairly, but we try to hold them accountable too. Somebody screws up in class, they know they're getting in the bleachers. Somebody's, I get an email from a teacher, they're going to the bleachers. Somebody gets a technical, they're heading to the bleachers. So if you don't have discipline with any program, I don't care what it is, you're going to struggle.
How much, being from a small school, how much do you deal with select basketball or guys that want to play year round? Is that something that you guys run into a lot, or because they kind of go from sport to sport mostly that they don't mess with that much?
No, we have right now. I have about 6 or 7 that do play, and they all play for different teams. It's crazy. They play some AAU basketball, and they play for different teams. Now we also play in the summer. We have a little summer league type deal. They're expected to play for us. Now we set it up so they don't have to miss
nice.
their AAU.
Yeah,
but we expect them to be with us when they're in town. If you're on vacation or something like that, that's different. And I don't make a big deal about it in the summer. But we do have 6 or 8 that will play all summer with an AAU team. Now we don't fight the AAU thing like the 6As do, where you basically having to recruit your player to stay at your school. I know that's a major problem in some of the metropolitan areas. That's not necessarily the case for us. And we have a weight program in the summer, and they're expected to be there and work out. And we have an open gym. They have every opportunity to be good, not just at basketball, but at football too, if they're football players, which a lot of ours are.
There's been a struggle at times between high school coaches and AAU coaches, almost like it's like territorial for the kids. Have you always been pretty open to them going and playing on those teams, or is that something that you've kind of come along to? Because I remember Coach, I've only been doing this 16 years, so I'm not even close to where you are. But early on, there was this feeling of like they're my players and they don't need to go off and do those things. And I would even make comments like, well, don't worry, I'll reteach you, or I'll change all those bad habits. I've grown since then, Coach, but how have you always dealt with that select basketball world?
To me, go do your thing. Go do your thing. Now there's some things that when they come back that I do not like. And I'll give an example, and I call it the AAU step back. We're trying to run an offense, so when we're running down the floor, we're straight into the offense.
Right.
I don't want to stop and everybody run to your spot. I mean, we're sprinting down and we're in offense immediately. And I can remember this happened at HJ a time or two. All of a sudden, the guy would like back up. I mean, I watched them doing it in NCAA the other day too, and it drives me bananas. It's like they backed up. Hey, everybody get set up. No,
yeah,
we're not doing that. And it's like you're waving the guy out to come guard you. We're not doing that. We're not playing that one-on-one stuff. This is a team sport, and don't back up. Let's make a pass and cut, whatever we're doing. But, that's one of I know that's a small thing, but that's something that drove me crazy there for a year or two. But, for the most part, we don't have guys that actually do that. We don't have to break them of stuff like that. And I know they play different defenses and all that. No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
As long as when they get back, they remember what we're doing.
Full court man-to-man, full court pressure.
No, hey, and ours is not full court man-to-man.
Oh, okay.
We're zone. We're a 1-2-1-1 full court. And usually once we get in the half court, it's some sort of technically it's 1-2-1-1. Now we've modified it a lot. We'll jump around a little bit this year, and we jump defense a lot of people this year also. Our district this year, the guards were phenomenal. You better get out there and guard the guards in our district because they could stroke it. So we did stuff a little bit different this year, but the main thing was we're full court pressuring you. We're trying to turn you over, and if not, then we're going to guard you in the half court. But usually we hardly ever play man-to-man, believe it or not.
No,
that's a shocker for most people, but we hardly ever play man-to-man.
You and I are very similar with just the way that we view the game. I think defensively, went to a pressure 3-2 zone, but that can easily become a 1-2-2, easily become a 2-1-2. And the idea of that zone is lazy or zone, we don't work hard. I think our teams will show you just how difficult it is or how much effort it takes to truly do what you're doing. And then offensively, I love the idea of we don't run necessarily our offense doesn't begin when we get across half court. Leather touches our fingertips. We are in offense. We're playing offense at that point. And then concepts that you're right on the money. What's the easiest thing to do? To play against a disorganized, retreating defense. What's the hardest thing to do? To play against a defense that's all back, all set, and prepared.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, and what we also try to do, when we get a rebound, we're all about the baseball pass.
Yeah.
If we can. We were very good at it 2 years ago. During the COVID year, we went 27-1. We lost in the regional finals. That was our only loss. But those cats could throw a baseball pass like you wouldn't believe. We get a rebound, and then we've already baseballed it to the other end. Now, early on, we were throwing it out of bounds, and I was trying to be patient, and then all of a sudden, it's like a quarterback. They started connecting, and people were like, "You better sprint out there quick," because we already released a couple people, and the ball's in the air. Now, we had a guy that was 4-time All-State. I've never had one make All-State 4 times, but a kid named Caesar, we called him Third. Ernest Caesar he was 4-time All-State. He was our point guard, and he could throw it and he could score. And so we would baseball pass you, and that we still do that.
Let me ask you this: have you ever, or maybe you're already doing this? That let's just say they take a wing three, and the guy that contests it, do you allow him just to take off without really having to block out or check? Because that's something I've wanted to experiment with. Like, what if we could steal 4 to 6 points a game? Because the odds of the guy that shoots the three, the ball actually coming back to that guy, it's super small. That's why the whole idea of follow your shot doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't it shouldn't bounce right back to you. You know, have you ever had them just contest, shots gone, take off, really before you've technically secured the ball?
Well, the ball side guy does that, and the guy on the guy on the ball, the point, he does it. They release opposite directions. So
wow.
we guys take off. We have 2 guys take off. And, it always helps if you have a good rebounding team.
Yeah.
So every now and then, sometimes you have to adjust on that because there's some teams that'll beat you up on the glass if you send 2 of them out. You might have to have one stay back and block out. But that's pretty much what we do. We try to make it as fast as possible. And especially at HJ and Koontz, we made it fast, and you better run out to the 3-point line because we could stroke it from that 3 off the break.
Love that, Coach. What's one rule that you would love to see changed, and why?
I don't really have any that I would like changed, but I want the one I don't want them to change is I don't want them to ever bring a shot clock in.
You don't want that?
I do not want the shot clock at all because that light's in your way.
No, you're good.
I'm afraid it's already hard enough in high school to get somebody to run the clock correctly. And I can only imagine the screw-ups we would have, not just with the clock people, but also with the officials. I can only imagine what it would – I think it would be a major cluster.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people are in favor of it. I understand why they're in favor of it, but I just see a bad thing happening if we ever go to that.
Defensively, do you find people almost stalling a little bit at times because of the way that like when we were at Faith, when we were really pressuring, almost going that Grinnell style, which is a constant wave of pressure. We were playing Crum in a tournament, and it was the second quarter, and they were stalling 4 corners. Now because we were always 2 on the ball, 2 interceptors, 1 safety all over the floor, and wave after wave. But they were creating these 45-second to minute-long possessions. Of course, I'm frustrated that we're not causing some type of turnover in that time. But they actually had the control and the passing to do that. And those are those few times where I'm like, golly, if they just did, there was a shot clock, but it's rare. It's rare that actually happens. But do you ever have that feeling?
We do have a few every now and then that do that. And, to be honest, what we do now, I wouldn't have done it when I was younger, but we are pretty good. I say we don't play man, but when we do, we're very good at it.
Yeah.
And so we just go get up in your shorts and we say, don't help.
Make them play. Yeah.
We're going to make you play. We're going to make you try to drive. We're just not going to help. And so it does not happen very often. And usually the teams that do that down in our area aren't good enough to do it. They're not good enough to sustain it. So we will say what we do. But if they do, we will go man real quick.
Coach, I got one more question and then the speed round that won't take very long. You good with time?
Sure.
Okay. 900 plus wins, 37 years of coaching. What would you do differently if you could start over?
if I could start over, the one thing that I did not do very well early in my career is we ran the 1-2-1-1, and that's all we ran. Now we made adjustments off of it, but we would not adjust very much off of it. And the same thing offensively. Uh, I would definitely be more open to adding things. I was extremely simple. Of course, we were very successful doing it, but I would have added some things. You learn as you go, though. That would be the main thing that I would change.
I think I've fallen into that trap at times of, I mean, Coach, we actually went 2 years with never running one possession of man-to-man.
Wow.
One, I love the zone. Like I felt like we're different every night, but then there's always that game or two where maybe this team, maybe they're comfortable against zones, or maybe they find an alignment and they find some rhythm. And then I'll have some coaching buddies of mine, maybe at the school, that are like, hey, all game long, you just never adjusted or changed. If you're familiar with Jason Garrett, the former Cowboys coach, I'm in DFW, and so like nobody could stand him really, because he'd always, hey, we're going to focus on the process. We're going to do these things, and I'm probably more Jason Garrett, but like you, I mean, I could see where maybe a wrinkle here and there, maybe something to hold them, but I don't know. I struggle to make those changes.
As I got older, like for example, when I first came to EC, the first year we were not very athletic. We ended up being really good, but we weren't very athletic. And I actually changed the defense. Our primary defense was full court 2-1-2, and we got very good at it. And so that's the wrinkle I throw in when we want to change. Also, as far as man to man, when we would get way up on somebody, fourth quarter, we might play man to man just to work on it.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is you're not working on it in a crucial time in the game. The game's over, so you might not get your best effort as far as that goes. But those are the things I would change.
Coach, the speed round. These are going to be quick questions. First thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out. You ready?
Okay.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Peanut butter.
Oh, good call.
Peanut butter.
Yeah. Greatest shooter of all time?
Pete Maravich. Hey, let me tell you something. I'm an LSU fan. I'm from Louisiana, and so I go to a lot of LSU games. And
did you watch him play?
I did not watch. I watched him play in the NBA.
Okay.
But there's a guy I go to LSU games with a friend of mine named John Saladin. We've been friends. He had two sons that played for me, and they were both very good players. But anyway, John has had these season tickets in his family for literally 55 years. Anyway, so I go to a game or two a year with him, and we tailgate with the guy that played with Pete Maravich. And he always tells this story. Look, this guy doesn't look like he can play a lick. Of course, he's 65, however old he is, I don't know. But he will say something like this: "Yeah, me and Pete put up 50 on Ole Miss one night, and then you find out Pete scored 46 and he scored 4." But so,
combined though, yeah.
You could probably throw Curry in there too, but
yeah,
I'm a Maravich fan.
Yeah. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Pistol Pete, Birth of the Legend, that made for TV movie back in the day, because you're a Pistol Pete fan. But
yeah, but I love Hoosiers.
Yeah. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
All right, Coach, you're up 3. You're on defense with 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
Oh my God, I don't foul, but I know analytics say you foul. I'm very hesitant. I'm afraid they're going to be in the shooting motion.
Yeah.
It cost me a time or two, but I'm very hesitant to foul.
I think where the ball is inbounded matters too. Like if it's full court, maybe, but in the half court when they have more time, I don't know. I would be afraid. I'd be afraid.
I'm very hesitant.
What book would you give somebody?
Any Any of the Killing books by Bill O'Reilly. I love all of them.
Nice. In basketball, who's the GOAT, greatest of all time?
Oh, Michael Jordan.
2 more. Your favorite place to travel?
Favorite place to travel? That's a very good question. Me personally, I like going to the mountains. Now, my wife usually Colorado, of course.
Okay.
But my wife's favorite place is a beach.
Nice.
So, Florida or Mexico.
Last one, probably the most important. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Minimum 2 in the morning. Minimum 2. I don't drink as much in the afternoon like I used to, but it's at least 2.
Nice. Coach, this was so much fun. I want to thank you for making the time because I know you had a busy day today, but thank you so much for just 37 years of faithfulness and working with players and loving the game and just everything that you've done for basketball and coaches over the years. This was an honor for me, man.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me, and it was an honor to be on. Also, hopefully, I gave you something that maybe somebody can use. But I've been very blessed in my career. I really have, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with everybody that you have around you. And for young coaches, they need to surround themselves with good people and a good wife.
Love that, Coach. Thank you so much for your time.
You guys have a good one, man.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.